Attention, soldiers, you are now entering the war zone. Please keep close to your compatriots and have your weapons at the ready. If you would like to skip the introduction, please fast forward to about 7.5 minutes. And now, poets at war.
Once, there were 4 children, whose names were Peter, Susan, Edmund, and Lucy.
Suppose I'm writing a novel. I write, Mary laid down her book. Next moment came a knock at the door. For Mary, who's got to live in the imaginary time of the story, there's no interval between putting down the book and hearing the knock. But I, her creator, between writing the first part of that sentence and the second, may have gone out for an hour's walk and spent the whole hour thinking about Mary.
We make things by the law in which we are made. We create because we are created.
In a hole in the ground, there lived a hobbit.
One ring to rule them all, one ring to find them, one ring to bring them all in the darkness bind them.
Tolkien and Lewis, both in their way, lifted me out of this world to show me a thundering beauty. And when I read the last sentence and came tumbling back to earth, I could still hear the peal. I hear it to this day. God allowed those stories to lift the veil on the imaginary world to show me the real world behind it, which ended up being, in the end, the one I was already in. The real world, at least in part, isn't out there somewhere, nor is it in my mind. It's here, right under my feet, all around me. Tolkien and Lewis held the fabric of Narnia or Middle-earth in one hand and clutched our world in the other, building a bridge across which we could set out for perilous realms and yet return safely with some of the beauty we found there.
My first and last philosophy, that which I believe in with unbroken certainty, I learnt in the nursery. I generally learnt it from a nurse, that is, from the solemn and star-appointed priestess at once of democracy and tradition. The things I believed most then, the things I believe most now, are the things called fairy tales.
We live in a moment that's unlike any other moment, a moment of bizarre tyranny, a moment of overreach.
I was nearly torn apart by a crazy doctor.
A moment of fear. It's like, and how are we living? How are we standing up in this moment?
I was made a slave by a bunch of mangy pirates.
Are we full of joy? Like, are we characters who are full of joy and unafraid?
I'm eaten. Got that? Eaten by a fire-breathing dragon. And not to mention being tossed, squashed, and scared practically to death.
It's like, how do we image God in this particular narrative in which we've been placed, in this chapter? And we get trained for that by reading about Sam and Frodo and Aragorn and Gandalf, and reading, Charlotte's Web and Animal Farm, and reading about Prince Caspian. Like, when you're little, you read those things and you read stories when you're older, and it reinforces what is the courageous action of a character in this moment.
Yet you stand before me.
Well, yeah.
Think, boy. What kind of an adventure would you have had if I brought you here with a turn of the page?
I wept bitterly, and then I said to myself, when everything happens quite miserably, then He sends help. I have always read so. People must first of all suffer a great deal before they can bring anything to accomplishment.
God, who at various times and in various ways spoke in time past to the fathers by the prophets, has in these last days spoken to us by His Son, whom He has appointed heir of all things, through whom also He made the worlds.
For I consider that the sufferings of this present time are not worthy to be compared with the glory which shall be revealed in us. For the earnest expectation of the creation eagerly waits for the revealing of the sons of God. For the creation was subjected to futility, not willingly, but because of Him who subjected it in hope, because the creation itself also will be delivered from the bondage of corruption into the glorious liberty of the children of God. For we know that the whole creation groans and labors with birth pangs together until now. Not only that, but we also who have the first fruits of the Spirit, even we ourselves, groan within ourselves, eagerly waiting for the adoption, the redemption of our body.
minstrel boy to the war is gone. In the ranks of death you'll find him. His father's sword he had girded on, and his wild harp slung behind him. God of song, said the warrior bard, though all the world betray thee, one sword at least thy right shall guard, one faithful harp shall praise thee. The minstrel fell, but the foeman's chain could not bring that proud soul under. The harp he loved ne'er spoke again, for he tore its cords asunder, and said, no chain shall sully thee, thou soul of love and bravery. Thy songs were made for the pure and free, they shall never sound in slavery. The chains upon the people came, and they gave away their freedom. No prophets left, they then grew lame, they accepted their false kingdom. But one young man saw the minstrel boy, and he took up the shredded strings, and with great love remade with joy the sacred tool for truth to sing.
Beauty and the Beast at 7, or at 6,
Mhm.
and then I was listening to the Broadway version
Okay, yeah.
because the Broadway version is actually what I grew up listening to, not
Right.
the film soundtrack. And I realized this is the first time I've seen the actual original Beauty and the Beast movie.
What?
I've only ever seen the 2002 re-release with Human Again.
Oh, right. Yes. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
I've never
you have
seen it without
yeah.
Human Again.
The addition of Human Again versus like the original, like
Yeah.
you can kind of give or take either way. I'm never gonna say someone's wrong for one or the other, for liking one or the other.
Yeah.
But like, I think the pacing definitely works better in the original, but I don't think that Human Again ruins it by any means. It's just kind of like whatever, you know.
I really like Human Again. It gives a lot of extra. Well, I say a lot. It gives a little bit of extra depth to the relationship building between Belle and the Beast, as well as I just really like the song. I think it's a great song.
It's a legitimately good song. I just, I grew up with the other version, and the thing that throws me off, they had not completed animation on Human Again when, the movie was out, right? You follow me? And so as a result, like, the animation in that whole sequence is not great. Like, it's not up to par with the pace that they had to set to get that thing out, right?
Yeah.
That's the thing that throws me out of it. Everything else is great, and then the other thing that I actually really like from that whole sequence is actually the Belle and the Beast, like, reading books sequence.
Yeah.
Like, that's great. I love that. Don't get me wrong. And I love the music, and the way it sounds is great. Like, the way all that's designed is good. It just feels so, particularly the backgrounds. If you watch the backgrounds during the Human Again segments, they're not up to par with the backgrounds on everything else.
DVD now, because I haven't seen Beauty and the Beast in years.
Yeah.
Before this rewatch, and so I need to go find the DVD and rewatch the 20th or the 10th anniversary edition.
Yep. So,
All right, I've been going through a list of software as service upgrades that I'm gonna be shooting for. I've decided to actually try and get some of them yearly and not worry about the month, like just getting the monthly or that or whatever else. Actually saving up and doing that. Not anytime soon necessarily, but getting them in a tier list for like how important they actually are priority wise and all that stuff. So that's what I'm doing right now as we wait for Brendan. I watched Beauty and the Beast this morning. It was the Human Again version just because that's what I could find on torrent, quite frankly. I own it, but my discs are scratched up. And I have some other versions that exist. I think I have a VHS somewhere, but my VHS player sucks right now.
Yeah,
I mean, the thing was, I'm so incredibly familiar with it. There's, like I said, I have it memorized basically. But I did write down a few notes, and I was going to listen to the audiobook section where Ingo Fanon's Grove, where he tells the story of Aryan Road, but I changed my mind. I just had too much to do today. But I have thoughts, lots and lots of thoughts. You know, it's super special to me, so. But I did do some actual prep this time.
Okay. Is it just me, or did this one have the best animation of any of the movies that we've seen so far?
By far.
Like, just the quality of the animation. Like, obviously, it's Disney animation in general is good. Was just fantastic.
Absolutely.
I do not actually have the words to describe how far above and beyond the average Disney movie the animation in this is.
Yep.
It's insane. I don't understand how it can be so much better. Because it's the same people. But it's so... Did they just all care more about this one?
Did they all just what?
Care more about this? Or what?
Well, the 9 old men were mostly completely out by this point.
Okay.
And they cared. These were the CalArts people who stuck through all of the, and if this ends up in the episode, it does. I'm recording anyway. I'm
still getting my computer set. So.
Oh, totally. The CalArts, and we're waiting on Brendan. The CalArts students who made it through the mass exoduses following the Dark Ages made it to Mermaid. Mermaid was a combination of several executives actually challenging them to do better and them going, okay, bet. And so Mermaid was Mermaid, and they knocked it out of the park. And the biggest thing that helped knock it out of the park, I would argue, was Glenn Keane's character animation for Ariel. And Howard Ashman and Alan Menken doing the music.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Like, those 3 guys absolutely knocked that out of the park. And it was such a unmitigated hit. And keep in mind, they had just done VCR, the VHS stuff. And so, basically, like, they made more money than they had ever made on an animated picture with The Little Mermaid. Because it was that popular. And that launched them into the...
One sec, I'm switching over to computer.
Oh, you're good.
There we are.
There we are.
Hello.
Yep, there we go. And so, basically, with the VCRs and the VHS tapes, they made more money on an animated picture than they ever had in the history of Disney. Right? I know Snow White. Everyone went to see Snow White. That's, that's an anomaly.
Yeah.
But, like, good gracious, Mermaid was an anomaly in and of itself because of that. And
Snow White was an anomaly on multiple different levels because it was also in theater, or it was like released in theaters for something like what, 42 months or something.
Right, an
Crazy
absolutely
like that.
long time, yeah. And so, as a result, the next movie they already had it in production as Mermaid's making all this money, and Eisner and Katzenberg and all the other fat cats and stuff go, holy cow, the distribution model plus the quality plus everyone's buying the soundtrack. That was the other thing. Menken, Ashman, Keane, and whoever else freaking made that movie make another one and double the budget, triple the budget, give them whatever they need.
Double the budget, triple the budget, move the production to New York because Howard Ashman is currently dying of AIDS.
Right, exactly, yeah.
And you get complete creative control, effectively.
Right. Mm-hmm. Okay, we should probably stop there till Brendan comes, but yeah, exactly. So that definitely sets the stage for the film part of this whole thing.
Yeah.
Oh, there's so much.
Yes.
So much.
It's so good. It's so good.
Mm-hmm. Oh, boy. Let's see.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so I've had a very productive day. I got basically everything done that I wanted to get done. I don't know, I've just been... I tried to set up myself for success, and it worked. I've been trying to get up at 6 again, and I'm not walking immediately. I'm basically waiting till everyone wakes up to walk, but I'm getting a whole bunch of little things done and having my coffee and doing my devotions and whatever in the wee hours, and it just makes everything better.
Yeah.
Oh, did you see Poetry for Warriors Daily today?
I saw that you posted it. I didn't go through and read.
Okay, I made some changes to a bunch of stuff. One, you'll notice on YouTube, especially, which is where I'm mainly focusing changes. But the title is actually just the teaser text.
It's just the question, yeah.
Yep, it's just the question. And then the thumbnail. And then the intro. I have the Poetry for Warriors Daily logo at the beginning. And then I'm doing curtain transitions where it actually has real curtains come across the screen and open back up a couple times. And it looks cheesy, but the point is it's action, and so it goes from Poetry for Warriors Daily, and then I have another screen. It opens back up your daily dose of Poetry for Warriors, like some text sort of thing. And then I'd have it go one more time, and now here's your host, Joshua David Ling, and it shows the channel icon and my name in text, and then curtain one more time, and then it's the thumbnail for the episode, right? With the question on it and everything, and then it ends with the Poetry for Warriors Daily thing. But the point is, right at the beginning, I've got enough action going on that it keeps people's interest, and I've already seen a major bump in views. That's a long form video because it's over three minutes, and I've got like 30 views in the past like 6 hours.
Wow, that's way better than what we were talking about yesterday.
Yeah. Because the long form videos I've been doing anywhere from like 2 to 7 views.
Wow, that is better.
So yeah, crack the code. And the remediation process has begun for remediating previous episodes of Poetry for Warriors Daily starting to build all that. And like we've said, this will build one to another, to another, to another, build the wall. It's all good.
Yep.
It'll work out. Oh boy. So
that's amazing.
I knew it would work. It's just a matter of tweaking what you have to fit what they're looking for. But it's not just what they're looking for, it's what the viewers are looking for too, right?
Yeah.
What is this? Oh, click on it. Am I a machine? It's just like, what is this? Yeah. Okay. And I have all the other information, all the episode information, in the description. But it's just superfluous information to people who don't know. So, yeah.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
You're pleased, I can tell.
That's great. That's fantastic.
Mm-hmm. So why are you fancy today?
I honestly just felt like it. I like the blue shirt. I like.
That's a good reason.
And it's the best Disney movie, so best clothes.
Yeah, it's true. It is the best Disney movie. Oh, good gracious! This is my number 2 all time, right? Like.
No, I don't believe I did know that.
This is my number 2 film all time. That's how much I love this one.
One sec. Let me see where it falls on my rating system.
Mm-hmm.
So what's your number 1?
Secret of Kells.
I think I did know that.
Yeah.
Movie rating. This, I believe, is the first new movie I've watched this year. Like, movie that I haven't
New
rated
for you,
before.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, yeah, like, specifically movie that I haven't rated.
Okay, right, because you're rating everything. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've been trying to rate every movie that I watch once since 2022. I've done a pretty decent job. I think I missed 3 last year, but I can't remember what they were. So, yeah. But as far as this year goes, I haven't actually watched any movies. I've watched a couple of episodes of TV, but not any actual legit movies. So, let's see here.
Probably just cut the silence later on, but
yeah,
it's all good. I don't mind.
I'm
just talk.
I'm trying to. Okay, so the way that my rating system works, it'd probably be worth going into, like, actually deep dive on an episode at some point in time.
That could be fun.
But the way that my rating system works, brief overview, is that story accounts for 28% of it, writing accounts for 20%, technical for 20%, agenda for 12%, content for 12%, and then enjoyment for 8%.
Okay.
So I'm trying to lean towards the critical side as far as it goes.
Right.
The problem is that I'm trying to find anything to not give it a 10 on.
Right.
Because I'm looking at perfect 10s. Because it's a musical, so my modifier for musicals is that the writing score is primarily reflective of the quality of the songs. The writing in the songs rather than the, like, dialogue or anything like that. Because if I were going off of dialogue, there's a couple of things that I could critique and, like, drop it down to a 9.
Sure.
But if it's talking about the songs, it's a perfect 10. Because of course it's a perfect 10.
Right.
There's nothing wrong with it technically except for, like, a minor weirdness as far as the pacing goes in the Human Again version.
Right.
But there's nothing.
Right.
So I'm looking at a 100, and this is the first movie that's ever done that.
Right.
In my rating system.
So is it number 1?
So.
Yes.
If it's 100, yes, it's number 1.
Yeah.
Easy.
Totally.
Like just not even close. So my current top rated. Well, I say it's number 1. Technically, my favorite movie is Jojo Rabbit, and so it gets a yes out of 100.
Mm-hmm.
And The Princess Bride also gets a yes out of 100.
Gotcha.
So it would technically be below both of those. But yeah, it would beat Real Steel, which is my highest rated movie so far.
Gotcha.
Like, by a lot. Like, by almost 6 full points.
Gotcha. So how are you, Brendan?
Check 1 2. Can you hear me?
Yep, sure can.
Yes.
Beauteous. We're gonna see how long this camera can last. This is gonna be a fun experiment.
I'm finishing one thing, but we are technically recording because Alex just had to say some stuff that needed to be on the show, of course.
Of course.
So, because he's Alex. But, yeah, so Brendan, how are you? How is life in the freezer?
Frozen.
Let it go.
Let it go. I had to shovel my uncle and aunt's driveway. I wore my new, from Christmas, sweatshirt with my coat over it because I understand how to dress for cold weather. You do it via layers. If something gets too hot, you just remove a layer or remove parts and stuff like that. Since the majority of the body's heat escapes through your head, I just took my hood off to let heat escape. But I had already started sweating, and so my hair had sweat in it. I took my hood off. The sweat froze. I had icicle hair strands. It was fun. It was -1 today as the high.
Yeah.
Okay then.
Fun times. Camera seems a little low, but that's okay.
Good gracious.
Goodness gracious me.
Well, so we're gonna be doing Beauty and the Beast tonight. Is there anything else?
Old as time.
Yeah, right. And boy, howdy, do I have a lot to say because it's just my second favorite movie of all time. Period.
All right.
Apparently, right there in Alex's top 1 or 2, 3, somewhere around there. And it might not be
technically my highest rated movie.
Right. And no clue where Brendan ends up, but we'll find out.
It's terrible and I hate it. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I had to. The joke was writing itself.
Absolutely. As he's still adjusting.
No, I have no issue with it. It's good. It's great. It's technically great. I don't have any strong emotional attachment to it though.
Cool.
I don't think it would be and that's something that like I value. Like one of my weird criteria is I have to get emotionally invested, like to the point where like I cry at the end, right? Not necessarily that, but like I have to feel that emotional investment, and Beauty and the Beast just doesn't do it for me. And that's but I can say that there were a number of great things about the animation. There were a number of great things about the music. Like I can't find a fault with it. It's just not one of my favorite, and it doesn't even make the list.
Yeah, fair enough. And we'll get into that. I think that one of the big things I want to talk about right up front, because let's face it, the movie towers over the fairy tale and the various versions of the fairy tale. And so I think a good place to start is some of the fairy tale origins. The obvious one that most people refer to is a French version, basically very similar to our story in that it's about a woman who encounters a beast who's enchanted and ends up through various trials and whatever else, overcoming his, and it's more about her than in this version. It was just more about the beast, but she overcomes his gruffness, and through her beauty she's able to save him, turn him back human. That's kind of the basic fairy tale. There are many variants, and for lack of a better term, etymologically connected stories all throughout history, scripture, other places. Just, it's crazy how deep this one really actually gets to the primordial type stuff. But the main one that I want to point out is sort of a gender-flipped Celtic weird situation called it's one of the stories of Arianrod. In this version, and I believe it's Welsh specific, but I'm not positive. I heard it in one of my Song of Albion series, which they are almost fully recounting it from one source, kind of a thing. But they are pulling from I want to say Mabinogion, but I'm not sure because I haven't read the Mabinogion. But point being, the story essentially goes that two brothers go into a forest and they kill. And Alex, you read it more recently than me, so you may actually remember this better. But they kill a beast in the forest, and it turns out that beast was the protector of a old, raggled, destroyed woman, a really old, ugly hag. And she's alone in the world now without her protector. And the honorable brother sticks around and says, okay, look, I'm gonna do my best to be your protector. She insists, based on the curse that is now set down for him, it has to be husband. But also the dishonorable brother runs away, so that's kind of a thing going on there. And so he actually, and this is, children in the room, just, I won't go too hard, but basically he consummates the marriage with this hag, and it's the most blood-curdlingly disgusting experience of his entire life. And he wakes up the next morning to Arianrod, who was under a curse herself, to look completely different, completely, separate. And he wakes up next to her, and is the most beautiful woman to ever have existed. And because he accepted his duty, what he was duty bound to do, he ended up getting the reward that came, and breaking the curse for her and redeeming her. So very much a similar tale. It's not identical, but it has the same etymological roots in story form. Mm-hmm. And so I just wanted to bring that one up because it is so interesting. And my hope is to do a 100 poem epic of this story after my Thumbelina, that actually takes into account some of the more disparate etymological roots. But I've talked enough. I want to hear you guys' thoughts on either the Arianrod story or other variants or whatever else fairy tale wise you can think of. I know I covered a lot, but
of course you throw it to me. So I don't know anything about the fairy tale, but I will note that people being monsters is super common in fairy tales.
Cursed to be monsters.
So, Isabeau, who is a fairy tale about a woman who is a dragon. If you want to do a gender flip thing of that, you have the Linorm. The Linorm is a Norwegian fairy tale where a guy, I don't want to go through the whole thing, but basically there's this prince who is a dragon, and this girl who is betrothed to him forcibly is like, I don't want to get eaten, I don't want to die. And so she goes to a witch and asks, like, how do I not die? And the witch gives her the instructions, and she actually follows him, unlike the Linorm's mother, who didn't. So you've got that kind of going. But yeah, like there is the two things that I think of. One of them I don't really necessarily like. It's an interesting sort of trend in modern psychology, but we're not going to go. But I'm going to hold off on that. The first thing I want to note is the idea of humans becoming beasts because of cursing. You can almost. No, I think you can. I think you can say that goes back to the Bible.
Oh, for sure.
Where?
Because you got Nebuchadnezzar.
Nebuchadnezzar. He doesn't turn into a beast, but he acts like a beast.
Right.
And he lives with the beast because God curses him. So you've got that. Like, okay, so we have.
Well, you've also got the Legion, right? You've got the man who's been possessed by demons, lives among the tombs, you know, all that sort of a thing. He's essentially a monster at that point.
In a sense, yeah. So you've got that. I would argue Nebuchadnezzar is a stronger connection.
Oh, agreed.
Not because of the whatever, but anyway, you've got that. The only other thing I would note is that, like, psychologically speaking, I was watching a psychologist give a lecture, and it's like one of the major romantic fantasies, particularly the ones that women love. But no, actually, yeah, it is one of the women romantic fantasies is the monster that is tamed by the girl for her kindness.
Yeah.
And it's not this is not me saying, like, oh, this is just an archetype, right? But it's important, but, like, no matter how you cut it, if it's the psychology affecting the story or the story affecting the psychology, there is that connection there.
Right.
You know, if you want to go to bad versions of this, you've got Twilight.
Right. Of course.
It's the same idea.
Right. And Twilight.
I said bad, Alex.
It's bad. It's not the one that I thought you were going to reference, though.
Well,
there's one that's worse.
Let me say the big thing that I want to stress that the woman taming the beast, the flip of that is the Hoseic story. You've got a man redeeming a woman. And so both of those are things that happen in real life, but they are, and it's not that they're not the norm even, because God created man to do certain things and woman to do certain things, and in certain situations they can save one another. But the problem is when we divorce our moral standards from our mission, right? This is something that Alex, he and I won't say who, but we talked with a friend who was dealing with something where there was a Hoseic woman type situation, not identically, but he would have to give up some insane amount of morals in order to really actually keep going after her. And he was asking advice, and basically I told him, you need to beyond your duty or your interest in your mission, your duty is to proclaim the gospel to this person, right? Your actual duty is to proclaim it to them in such a way that they're going to leave you completely alone and ghost you or they're going to bend and follow you, right? That's really the difference. And there's a female version of that. I'm sure I won't go into that now because I don't feel like going down that brain path at the moment. But
I mean the way you do that is the rich boy. That's what it is. It's the rich prince who thinks he can get whatever he wants. It's a form
that's
of
the evil,
monster,
yeah.
but it's a form of monster, but it's not and see, this is where things get interesting. The nature of the beast is really important in each story.
Yes.
Right? The Dove Isabeau story that I mentioned is interesting because it's the only one I can think of where the woman's monster is violent. The dragon in nature, because what is a dragon? Think of a dragon, right? The dragon is the quintessential monster that needs to be slain.
Right.
It is the violent monster. Most of the time in these sort of archetypical romance stories, if you're going to have a man be a monster, the man in question is a violent beast, in a sense. It's playing off of it's taking man's natural vices towards violence and dialing it up to 11.
It's perverting it.
Perverting it. Whereas with women monsters, as you mentioned with the Hoseic thing, it's not that she's necessarily violent in a rage monster kind of deal, but her sin, her evil, comes from seduction, trickery, lying, manipulation, other things like that. It's not aggressive assault.
Right.
Which is why, again, the Dove Eve's the Bow story is so interesting, because the girl is a dragon. Dragons are usually associated not with trickery, deceit, lying, although you get that with Satan. I understand that.
Right.
But most of the time in folk tales, in fairy tales, dragons are fire-breathing lizards that fly.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Alex, did you have something?
Little bit. Fantastic YouTube channel. Not kid-friendly, just warning, throwing that out there. The Authentic Observer, Galatea, British girl, really fun channel. But several years ago, she did a video comparing the evil sorcerer and the evil sorceress.
Okay.
2 videos. One on the evil sorcerer and one on the evil sorceress. And the differences between, effectively, down to masculine evil and feminine evil.
Yes.
And she identified that same thing, that feminine evil is more left-handed than masculine evil, which is more right-handed.
I would agree,
and
yes.
how exactly that plays out in various forms of media. And she doesn't make like a clear delineation, all sorceresses are women and all sorcerers are men. She, for example, puts Jadis, the White Witch, in the sorcerer category.
Right.
Because she is very upfront, and I'm going to force you to do.
Except when she's tricking Edmund.
Seduction whenever she's tricking Edmund.
Right.
But for the vast majority of her characterization, she's a sorcerer and not a sorceress. And as far as a male sorceress, she says Dorian Gray from Oscar Wilde's Picture of Dorian Gray.
Yep.
Yeah.
I was going to say another interesting factor in this category. Usually the female character is not turned into a monster at this point, but is actually there's a variation that actually plays on the gender issues at hand in some ways, and that is the obvious version of this would be Elsa in Frozen. Right, she has a power that is beyond her. She can't control it. This is becoming more and more tropey these days because everyone's fantasizing about women's power. But let me say this. Another really good example of this, and I have not read the comic book, don't come at me for that, but the specifically in the Teen Titans 2003 show, the Terra arc, Raven's arc too, but Terra's arc in particular really hits on something where she is leaning into masculine traits because she doesn't fit the mold of the feminine traits. And this can be done in a way that isn't pro-LGBT. In fact, it was mostly done in a way that didn't even take that into account, because it takes for granted male and female, right?
Because it was back when people were sane.
Right, exactly. And so, oh goodness, we were sane in 2003.
The insanity metastasized.
I'm scared. He was a boy, she was a girl. Can I make it any more obvious? Avril Lavigne.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway.
Read this lady's books.
Anyway.
So, yeah. Is there anything further on the fairy tale side of things, specifically, like, the other variants and fairy tales that we want to cover before we dive into the Disney film and the production and all the other good things that came from that?
Would it be unwise for us to at least mention what variations exist? Like, we don't need, like, if people want, or who watch this want to find it.
Well, we mentioned a bunch of variants. Yeah,
we did. Okay.
Yeah, well, let me put it this way. Looking into variants of Beauty and the Beast, they're a dime a dozen when it comes to actual, like, the French fairy tale we think of. There's so many variants of that one in particular that it's not really worth going into whole hog.
Okay.
I was trying to get deeper into it, some of the etymological roots and stuff like that, the language we're trying to speak from. But that was the only reason why I kind of skipped over that.
No, that's fine. That's fair.
Any other things, Alex?
The only thing that I can think of, I haven't done search the actual, like, historical fairy tales or anything like that. But the one thing that I have heard about the fairy tales before the Disney one is Chesterton in Orthodoxy. Whenever he talks about the key point of Beauty and the Beast being that a thing must be loved before it is lovable.
Right.
And that is the fairy tale, not the Disney movie itself, but it's worth mentioning because it's Chesterton.
Oh yeah,
so
totally.
Yeah,
totally.
Ah, yes, Chesterton is always an excellent choice, as is becoming one of our allies, like these ones right here. Attention all Christian writers and creative peoples! Are you searching for a place to share your work and receive encouragement from fellow wordsmiths? Look no further than the Broodcast, inspired by the legendary Inklings of old, a group of writers who banded together during the Second Great War. The Broodcast is your monthly gathering for inspiration, fellowship, and critique. Join us as we share our stories and support our fellow soldiers on our creative missions. Enlist in the Broodcast community today at joshuadavidling.com/brood. Travel cyberspace. Serve the greatest cause. Join the ranks of the Brood today.
In the heart of Atlanta, a city teetering on the edge of chaos, 4 extraordinary individuals rise as the Guardians of Atlanta, an unstoppable force against the encroaching shadows. William Crusader Avery, a knight with unwavering faith, leads this divergent team, joined by Cirrus Cyclone Jones, a weather controller gifted with angelic power. Bobby the Great Phantasma Carter, a master illusionist capable of bending light itself. And Amira Mirror Kadru, a seemingly innocent young woman with the ability to copy powers and knowledge. As part of the coalition of underground resistances against global empire, Courage, they stand as city's last line of defense against political machinations and ancient evils seeking to plunge Atlanta into darkness once more. Brace yourself for a thrilling journey into the world of Courage universe, where epic poetry meets superheroes in Guardians of Atlanta, an electrifying serial releasing continuously in ebook, MP3, and animated video formats.
And now back to our discussion of Beauty and the Beast in the trenches on Poets at War.
Well, we come to 1991, and what a year it was. All kinds of things happened. The Braves won went to the World Series that year for the first time in forever. There's a million things that happened in 1991, but the big one, Disney's coming off, and Alex and I talked about this slightly before the show, but they're coming off unmitigated success with The Little Mermaid, mainly due to 3 men, I would argue: Glenn Keane, Howard Ashman, and Alan Menken. And Glenn Keane doing the character animation on Ariel specifically. And with all those things happening, the fourth thing that I would add is the video market. This was their absolute. This was equivalent. The theater version would be Snow White. This would be equivalent to that because they hadn't done VHS for very long yet, and this was their first big blowout. Everyone bought this VHS tape for home video. Everyone. And they were rolling in the money, and Jeffrey Katzenberg and Michael Eisner said, double the budget, triple the budget, go do your thing. And you have this amount of time to do it. Which was not a lot.
Yeah. The production of Beauty and the Beast is so... I haven't done a giant amount of research into it, but even the cursory level of research that I've done is just so incredibly interesting because, as you said, they increased the budget massively from Little Mermaid. Then they found out that Howard Ashman was dying of AIDS, and so they moved the entire production from Hollywood to New York so that he could be intimately involved with the production of the movie. And then they gave him effectively complete creative control. They said, make the movie you want to make, hands off.
Yep.
Meaning that this is the Disney Renaissance film that Jeff Berg had least to do with it, which explains exactly why it is the best.
Yeah, good gracious. So, as far as that goes, I think, we'll get into it, but they put Glenn Keane on the Beast. one of the big things that happened in the earlier production, they were doing pre-production for a long time, long before, basically like neck and neck with Mermaid, and it just wasn't going anywhere for a long time. And they said that the biggest story break that they came across was when they realized this is not a story about Belle, this is a story about Beast. Like, there is Belle elements. Part of this is her journey. We begin with her. We have to begin with her. We begin with Beast as the prologue, but and it is a romance, so it's two. But the main change is not in Belle. It is in Beast. It is her unwillingness to change that changes him in many cases. And when they figured that out, the story started to fall into place. There's so many things I can go into from here. I'm just trying to pick and choose. But I guess, Brendan, what are the things that... I'm not saying why don't you like it, but I'm just trying to say, like, I'm interested in finding out what didn't hit for you, if anything, that you can particularly pinpoint, because you say it's a technical marvel, but what does not grab you?
Oh my gosh. Belle.
Okay.
That sounds so weird to summarize like that, because she's a great character.
Mm-hmm.
She's got personality. She has an arc.
Mm-hmm.
She goes through all the motions, but she starts off with spunk, and then she's like, "Oh, I want to adventure in the great wide somewhere," and all that stuff, which I finally remembered what that reference you made was all those however many podcasts ago it was, when you reference that and you're like, "Oh, such a good song," and I'm sitting here going, "I don't know what you're talking about."
Because you haven't watched it a million times and haven't memorized like me.
No, I don't have it watched a million times. Again, it's really hard for me to quantify, but I don't find... Like, I have a hard time with fall in love stories, to begin with.
Sure.
I don't want to say as a guy, because that's not true, but when I was growing up, when this, like, it was 1991.
Yeah.
One of the great things that happened in 1991 was I was conceived. I wasn't born till 92, but, this is the time frame. And I'm sitting here like, so I was growing up, I know of Beauty and the Beast.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it is more Beast's story,
mm-hmm.
but I did not have either the emotional intelligence or the eye or the care enough for my eye to notice the details of the animation.
Mm.
And what I mean by that, and then let me talk about the technical marvel for a
Please
second.
do.
After Beast saves Belle from the wolves, after she runs away breaking her promise, she runs away, he saves her. She puts him on the back, and they're in the parlor again. He's sitting in the chair, and she is taking care of his wounds, and they start arguing. It's like, okay, nope, that makes perfect sense. As you watch Beast's face, every time she does a rebuttal, he gets this look on his face of, oh darn, and then he thinks of something, he goes, aha, yes, I got her now, and then she comes back with another rebuttal, and he goes, oh darn. That emotional ride, animation, is perfect.
And that's Glenn Keane. That's Glenn Keane once again. Mm-hmm.
Beautiful animation. I cannot express enough how good it is. Like, just... And the fact that he goes from being human to bestial, like that, he goes from walking to running on all fours. He has, in the beginning, he's got these stealth elements that to him. He's like a villain. And then when Gaston shows up and he starts fighting back because Belle's come back for him, he reverts and he gets, and like those stealthy beast I'm a villain elements, he's able to use them to his advantage again. And it's like so like you get like these callbacks and stuff like that, you know. So from a story wise, it works perfectly. But Belle doesn't, like, she makes mistakes and she learns and grows, but she doesn't seem like...
Seems like you don't buy her motivation.
She's almost too good.
Okay.
Despite making mistakes. She is too, like, too good. And again, like, part of this is, again, as a kid, I don't have the emotional attachment to this movie. My favorite film was my favorite Disney movie was Fantasia, followed by Alice in Wonderland, and then Treasure Planet. And I, you know, so I don't have that nostalgia. And watching it recently, it's like, okay, she's a good person, that's nice, that's sweet, but I don't have such a strong like I don't have it didn't he didn't go through enough heartbreak for me to feel the heartbreak believably. I don't
I will say this. One of my very few pacing issues, and I'm pretty sure this was a Katzenberg Force thing as far as my when I was doing extensive research on this years ago. I believe that's what I came to. But the scene in which where she trades her life for her father's, essentially. I don't think there's enough negative space in that scene, timing wise. Dialogue timing wise. However, I think that it still works. I think it you know, yeah, so the that's where 90% of her heartbreak is dealt right there.
I think that it actually, the timing on that scene is great. I'm glad you brought that up, because as I was talking, I'm a verbal processor. It takes me time to figure out what on earth I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
As I go through, I think the timing and the pacing on her giving her life for her father's is great. It's after that it needs to have more space.
Okay.
Because Lumiere is trying to convince Beast, you need to invite her around and show her and stuff and blah blah blah. I think if they had let her sit and sulk more, not sulk, but sit and be depressed more, and have Beasts like slowly, like maybe he doesn't give her a cold cell, maybe they convince him in the first night, let her have a room, don't let her
they did
stay
in the first night. No,
that's what I'm saying. Maybe the first night do that, but don't have him invite her to dinner for another like couple days. He gives her food, but he doesn't invite her to dinner. Right? Maybe.
Okay. Now we're dealing with timing constraints, but yeah, basically,
but that's the thing. You have timing constraints on production, and you've got timing constraints on how long the movie can be.
Right.
I don't know about the rules on that.
Sure.
So like obviously, I'm like, okay, in a perfect world, right? This is how we would do it, and
and I'm just getting your perspective. I'm not saying I agree necessarily, but I'm listening. Yeah.
Oh, of course, and I don't expect you to, because both of you think it's like the best film or the second best film in the world, but. I'm not saying that it isn't amazing. I'm just saying that, again, one of my necessities, it can't just be technically great. It also has to, the story has to tug at my emotions, which I know is super subjective, but I'm sorry, that's just one of the things. And Lord of the Rings does that for me at a couple of different scenes.
You're really loaded up there, Alex.
Does that to me. I just, for whatever reason, and I cannot say why, but for whatever reason, Beauty and the Beast just doesn't do it.
Go, Alex.
I'm waiting to be torn to shreds. Let's go.
No. I want to get your thoughts on the Broadway version. Because the Broadway version,
when you get to it,
it is incredible.
You
it's
cut out,
the one that I grew up listening to because
you cut out a little bit.
It's the one that I grew up. It's the one that I grew up listening to on my iPod because that's what we had on CD. And one of the, in my opinion, the best thing that it does is add another music number. The way that I read it, a fair bit more time in between the Belle gets captured and held up in the castle and the inviting to dinner scene. So in the track list, there's Prologue, which is the Enchantress, then Belle, then No Matter What, which is a new song. Then there's Gaston's other song called Me, which is amazing. Then there's Belle Reprise. Then she gets captured, and there's a song called Home. It is absolutely incredible. It's so good. It actually gets referenced in the crappy 2017 remake. Whenever she's captured and held up in the cell, they actually play this song. It's is this home? Is this where I must learn to be happy? And she actually kind of goes through this crisis. They don't sing it in the remake. It's the music behind it, and it actually is far more contemplative than it is in the movie. So I think that fixes, at least that, it even fix your characterization problem with Belle. Yeah. Just that one song. It's so good. It's that good.
And I'm so worried that I want people that people are mishearing what I'm saying. I do not think Belle is a bad character.
Right. She's not Rey from Star Wars.
I do not think she's poorly written. I do not think all of this. When I say she's
you just
too
didn't
good,
connect with her.
I couldn't connect with her, and when I say she's too good, it's there are people who are that good. I know a couple of them.
Yeah,
I'm married to one.
Mm-hmm.
But it's. I would have expected a little more more something else, a little bit more of something, given what she established in the beginning.
Sure.
And but she's still a great character. She still has a lot of depth and intrigue and interesting to her. It's just, it didn't work for me for some reason.
Sure. Yeah. Well, let me say this.
Yeah. That's why I really want to get your opinion on the Broadway at some point in time.
Yeah.
Okay.
They're so mingled together in my mind.
Yeah. I was going to mention, so you guys know what Cameo is, right? Where you get celebrity greetings and stuff like that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I was sitting there thinking to myself, because I saw someone get a Billy Boyd cameo on TikTok. They got a Billy Boyd cameo, and they were so they were moved to tears. Basically, it was just a happy birthday kind of a thing, and he had some good wit thrown in there. He did a great job. And then I thought to myself, generally speaking, I don't get these, but I'm really glad that person got it. And then I started thinking, is there anyone to whom I would have that reaction if I heard their voice say, "Oh my goodness, Paige O'Hara." Belle's voice.
Yeah.
Good gracious, if I heard that, I would just melt. I was honestly, it's in the silly little 3 to 5 year old range where you're girls are icky, gross, whatever. She was probably the one and only character that I had any sort of oh, I like her though. She's cool. Because she likes storybooks and she wants adventure in the great wide somewhere. Yeah. And for real though, I think the one thing we didn't mention in all the technical aspects is I want to really put forth the voice acting. All of it in Beauty and the Beast never gets enough. I know you're going to say oh, but this one here or something like that. And I want you to. Oh, okay. No. You're going to say that part's perfect. Go ahead.
Can I say, I don't know how, but at some point I stumbled upon Gaston's song in German.
Oh, that's got to be great.
If you get a chance, go look it up. It's on YouTube. For some reason, I think it's hilarious listening to it.
Oh,
in
I'm
German.
sure it's
anyway,
great.
Continue.
But no, I was gonna say
to go
every
listen to
single voice, and not just the voices, but the choices of takes, the way that they were not just directed and performed, but the way they were edited. The voices were edited, particularly Beast, because Robbie Benson's voice is not that deep. Generally speaking, sometimes you hear real Robbie Benson, but most of the time you're hearing him Chris Hemsworthified, right? He's being brought down just slightly, right? And then on top of it, they're constantly adding in little growls, little roars, little animal sounds that work absolutely seamlessly with Robbie Benson's performance. And I've heard him do the Beast voice, and it's like, you don't have the couple extra layers of production on it. You don't sound like the Beast, like, at all. But like, I know you could, and I know that they could turn that on at any moment because they've done it in other productions. But like, good gracious, the just the voices and how they sound throughout the entire piece. Angela Lansbury was one of the best casting choices ever for Mrs. Potts. Good gracious.
Rest in peace, man.
Yeah, man, that was a performance of a lifetime for her, you know? So, anyway.
That's one of the things, what you mentioned with Beast voice, that when you are learning about, if you look at filmmaking and you think, I want to do that, no one ever thinks about sound.
Nope.
Until it's too late.
Yep.
If anybody who is watching this now, any of our tens and tens of viewers and listeners, if you want to do something with film, do not neglect learning about sound. The one rule that I can tell you for certain is sound effects confirm what your eyes see on screen or don't see on screen. Music confirms what you are supposed to feel emotionally. That's the way those two are supposed to work. Now, good directors can swap those. So, diegetic Jaws. The music, da-dun, da-dun. You're supposed to, it confirms that you're supposed to feel dread, but then you establish that that's the shark theme. So when you don't see a shark and you hear the music start, that is supposed to confirm to you, that confirms in your brain, that ripple in the water is a shark.
Right.
That's what that's doing. So, anyway, all this to say, yes, Beasts, I didn't even think about the mixing of his voice, but yeah, of course they would they add animal sounds, and of course they would have to deepen his voice. Because he is a 8-foot tall hulk of monster, his voice box is going to be thicker and larger, so of course his voice is deeper.
Yep. Lumiere, unbelievably charismatic. Good gracious.
So good.
Cogsworth, just the stuffiest of the stuffy.
Those two are a perfect duet.
Good gracious, they are. I love them.
They are.
So good.
They're such good foils to each other.
Lumiere was the main reason I watched as a little boy. I thought Lumiere was the coolest guy ever.
That Lumiere was my favorite character as a little boy too.
Timmy Robertson is the feather duster in this. Penny from the New Adventures in Odyssey stuff is the feather duster in this.
Yep. So,
I don't know how I didn't know that before.
Yep, I knew that one. But yeah, no, the entire voice cast is unbelievable. And the pacing of the way it's edited, I know I just keep going on, but like I'm thinking of all kinds of lines, like even from the beginning with Maurice, you know, is someone up there? Like he has a very every single line has a specificity to it. It's almost as if when they were going through the takes, they were whoever was doing it, I don't know who did this part of the editing, the sound editing of the dialogue and stuff, but like every single line has a musical quality to it. You know, like really and truly, nothing feels monotone unless it's supposed to. Like the villain with the paddy wagon, right? Like he breaks things because of that. Yeah, and I think that's Tony J, if I remember correctly, which is Frollo.
I think that's right.
Yeah, and Shere Khan and others. But yeah,
and not to go back to the Broadway, but I'm gonna go back to the Broadway. A lot of the lines from the movie are transferred over to the music and set to score in the Broadway. It works so well. Like the Gaston song that I said was great. There's some like added music to it, the actual like main thing, but there's a aside in the song where he's does the whole picture this, a scenic rustic cabin, my little wife rubbing my feet, and it's put to more, it's made more musical, but it's the exact same lines. So they obviously got exactly what you're saying and just transferred it over and put it to music, and it works so well. Seriously, anybody go listen to the Broadway. It's a completely different piece of art, and it is well worth your time.
Is the whole entirety of it in audio available? Or just
not
the
to my
songs?
Knowledge. I haven't seen a Slime tutorial of it.
I'm gonna have to find something like that somewhere. But okay.
Yeah, but even just the OBC recording is very good.
Right.
Like it's almost the entirety of the story. You get, if I were betting, you miss maybe 15 minutes of dialogue.
Sure.
But it's a long recording. It's good.
Brendan.
Yes.
Have you seen? So they added a song in what year, Alex? Roughly, do you know?
2017.
2002.
No. Well, no, there's a 2017 live action remake. Go ahead. Go ahead.
The 2002 DVD re-release specifically.
Yeah. On the re-release, they added the song "Human" again. I don't know if you've seen that or not. Come on, Hazel. Come say hi.
I watched whatever version was on Amazon most recently because I saw it.
That's going to be the 2003, right? Or when did you say? You say?
Hey Hazel, 2002.
You want to say hi real quick on here? They want to say hi to you. Hold on. Here we go. There you go. Say hi.
Hey Hazel.
Oh Hazel.
How are you?
Good. I'm going to bed.
She said good, but I'm going to bed.
That is fair.
All right.
I too will go to bed soon-ish.
Say good night.
Good night.
All right. Well, we'll see you all.
Night.
All right.
Good night.
There we go.
The joy.
Close the door, please. All right. Yeah. So that you would have seen the version with Human again. Go ahead. Go ahead out. That was a big pacing difference, and like I was mentioning to Alex, particularly in the backgrounds, more so than the actual animation. The animation was not completed before the movie was released, and it was cut like fairly last minute, and then they added it back in for the 10th anniversary?
It was 10th anniversary.
Yeah, 10th anniversary.
Yeah, in fact, it was the 10th anniversary re-release, released in 2002.
Okay.
Even though that was technically
11 years. Yeah. Okay, gotcha. So basically, that's the one with that's kind of based around the household objects and people singing about being human again. You may or may not recall that based on what you saw.
I don't remember this at all, and I saw it like last night.
They might have the other version.
I watched the Disney Plus version, and it didn't have it. So
really,
I'm assuming that they just don't. They don't. They go with the original version, not the.
See,
10th
that's different
re-release.
because I've watched it on Disney Plus, and they definitely had the Human Again version.
Well,
but that was like toward the very beginning
Prime.
of Disney Plus. I know. I'm saying they're gonna go with whatever Disney is putting out on streaming service. So that's really interesting. They may be reverting back to original for whatever reason, but yeah. Okay, well, basically...
Now just do that with Star...
I was bringing up Right, exactly. Do it with Star
Bring up
Wars.
Star Wars.
I was specifically referencing it because in Human Again, the animation is, I'd argue, just under par for the rest of the film, and the backgrounds really suffer. That's one of the biggest things that I see in it that really just like, there was a magic in the pace that they were having to set to get this thing done. And the backgrounds in particular I wanted to point out, because especially all the multiplane stuff that they're doing in the beginning prologue, all of those incredible paintings, the paintings of the castle that you see at the beginning and the end, certain other paintings and stuff that you see as backgrounds within the castle itself, where you're just seeing all this really intricate art, with this animation, and they meld it. That's the thing. It's not like one's too bright and one's too saccharine kind of colored, like coloring book, and then one is whatever. Like, that's really the beauty of it to me in the art aspect. Beyond motion is the actual blending of textures and colors in such a way that nothing feels out of place. And that's what I was saying to Alex.
Even though the movable objects and the backgrounds are two completely different art styles,
yes,
they don't feel out of place, which is shocking.
Yeah.
Because as far as I've seen, at least, even looking at Frozen, the people don't look like they're supposed to be on that background.
Right.
They look like they're floating.
Well, okay, I'm going to quibble with you on that one, because that's not, I don't think that is a art style or background difference. That might be a technical error on the computer and how it is handling light and shadow, because 3D animation is different from hand drawn. But what you're talking about with the hand drawn, you see that everywhere, where the background, especially in TV shows.
Yep.
This is particularly obvious in Justice League. It's particularly obvious in like a lot of places where it's like, oh, that character is different. But you're right. Beauty and the Beast, the background and the movable characters are so seamless, which is part of the reason why it works so well from a technical standpoint. I have 3 things now because we've been talking. I'm sorry.
No, you're good.
Let me deal with this first. First of all, that whole seamless background thing and everything needing to be connected, that's why I always say that fantasy films take such a large budget to do. Because anytime you insert a thing that is not in the world, you have to go through a ton of effort in order to make it come out of the uncanny valley on the other side in order to fit in. This is why The Lord of the Rings is so good. It's why, despite all of its flaws, Game of Thrones is technically very well made.
Right.
Except for the Starbucks cup.
Except for the Starbucks cup. It's also why, it's why the D&D movie actually was really well done. And it's why animated fantasy is always easier than live action fantasy, because if your realism is dropped, you don't have as far to go in order to match it. So that's one.
I mean,
sorry, go.
I mean, to kind of harmonize with that, Howard Ashman talked about in an interview that I've seen, talked about how animation is a better medium for musicals than live action. But both animation and stage are better than live action movies, because there's no games being played. Whenever you're looking at a stage, you know that's a stage up there, you're watching a performance. Whenever you're watching an animation, you know that that's something that's drawn. Whenever you're watching live action, there's some form of deeper illusion that you're watching something real. And that's why musicals work better on stage or in animation than they do in live action, because there's less games being played and you have a little bit more freedom. there.
There is a certain level that you have to buy in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And for stage and animation, like Anyway, 2, talking about the backgrounds and the details in the paintings made me think of this. I love how at the end, when the curse is broken, the gargoyles turn to angels.
Yes.
Because to me, that is taking into account the biblical fall.
Oh yeah.
Because it wasn't just Adam and his household that was cursed, it was the ground.
Right.
It wasn't just Beast and his servants and his servants' families that were cursed.
Mm-hmm.
It was the castle itself.
Right.
Which I love. Great. Beautiful.
You know that his production name is Adam, right?
No, I did not know.
Yes. They don't never say it in the film, but his production name as a character is Adam.
That's cool.
Prince Adam. So a lot of fans refer to him as Prince Adam because of that. But yeah, so that's on purpose.
Can we talk about Gaston?
Yeah, sure. Are we talking about the hot take?
I was gonna say, are we wanting to go into neo-Gastonism?
It's neo-Gastonism. I love that. I was gonna say briefly, I do have that listed, so I was gonna go into it at some point, but go ahead.
Gaston is always depicted as a stupid fool who is evil. And then, you've got the Tumblr posts of people saying the reason why Gaston is so scary isn't because of he himself being skilled or whatever, but it's because the town love him, and it shows how society loves the person who is wicked and blah, 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 and they're going into all this psychological nonsense, and I'm like, shut up. Gaston's not stupid.
No.
He's the one who came up with the plan to capture, to grab Maurice.
He's short-sighted, but he's not stupid.
Yeah, he's short-sighted, but he's not stupid. Well,
he lacks imagination.
He's narcissistic, is what he is.
Yes, and he lacks imagination because he thinks that there's perfection in himself.
Yeah. I still don't think he is the most... I still wish that they had taken him in a different direction if they were going to, because one of the things that, Gaston is loved by everyone. He's supposed to be, he is obviously a skilled hunter. He's obviously very strong and stuff. He's obviously got a certain amount of charisma based on how other people act around him. I know the story is told from Belle's perspective to a certain degree, so we see him how she sees him. But it's really hard to justify Gaston, in my mind, with how the people see him, given how much of an idiot and a flop he looks.
Okay. So let me answer that. The first thing that they're establishing about the town itself is that this is a, in her own words, poor provincial town. And that's not just her idea, right? Her and her father are not in a political liberal sense, but they are much more progressive individuals in this society. They are more book learned, both her and her father. And her father's somewhat of an idiot, bumbling idiot in his own way, but he is a learned person, right? So he doesn't have all the physical aspects and things that Gaston does. And so this town embraces tradition in such a way that makes them short-sighted, and thus they are interested in basic primal masculine traits. This is the Shire, right? Okay, that's basically what they're doing here. They're doing the Shire, and we've got the Tukes over here are Belle and her father. They're not respected because they're not a big rich old family. They're the weirdos. They're the Brandy Bucks. They're the ones, the Bree Hobbits, right? And then you've got Gaston, who is your Ted Sandyman, right? He's got power because he knows how to work the system. Gaston knows how to work the system of the town. That's very clear. He knows what is valued, and he knows he has all of it, and he knows he can get whatever he wants from people. That's the whole line. That makes her the best, and don't I deserve the best? Right? This is where his short-sightedness comes in. He goes, I am destined for the best because I am the best. I don't have to think about what I want. I just need to take it. He has no imagination. So beyond the town, however, you cannot forsake the parallel between Adam before he became the beast and Gaston. They were very much the same person, forsaking things that were not clearly beautiful on the surface, not caring about their own people at all, taking everything for granted, their entire status. And Beast became
ruining the economy by eating 4 dozen eggs, which a day, which is like, you know how much money that's worth in to a poor provincial town? Of course you are.
Good gracious.
Of course the town is poor. You're eating literally every chicken's egg.
Right. And so we're doing the Beast in Beast externally, and then internally he's changing back to man. And Gaston is a man on the outside by all metrics, is a prime man, and then inside he's actually degrading, right? We're doing this thing, and Gaston has to be those things in order for any of that to work, right? So, but go ahead.
Right. I just wish that they didn't. I wish that they didn't throw him in the mud.
Okay, but that's
okay. That I'm not saying that it couldn't happen necessarily. I wish that he didn't walk in and put his muddy boots up on Belle's table.
Okay.
I'm okay with Belle not liking him. That's not the issue. Belle needs to not like him. That is a necessity.
Okay.
I don't mind him being like, I deserve the best. Belle is the best, therefore I deserve her. I don't have an issue with that. I wish he came across more like how Frodo says it. Look fairer, but feel fouler.
Okay.
And with the look, I wish that included his actions, where he arrives at her thing fully dressed with a gift. Not just himself, but with an actual gift. May I come in? She maybe allows him to come in because he is following social conventions, and she feels trapped in that, and it's like, oh, I have to do that. Now we're getting into production limitations. We're getting into all that stuff.
Well, I have a counter, but go ahead.
But when she kicks him out and he goes sliding into the mud, and then his idiot friend starts playing the music ridiculously. I mean, his idiot friend needs to be. I love his idiot friend. His idiot friend
LeFou is the best.
Yeah, it's wonderful. But when they're about to take the father away and Gaston comes up from behind like a vampire and is like, this could all go away if you just do one thing. I wish he was like that from the start.
Okay, right.
That's
so,
all and less of the caricature.
But here's why.
Yes.
Here's why he wasn't.
Yeah.
Okay. His ego is so large that to not get Belle the exact same way that he gets those 3 blondes every day means that he has failed. And it wasn't until she utterly humiliated him that he was convinced that he couldn't get her that way and had to become conniving.
Yeah, that makes sense. Now we just need the story to say it.
I think they did, but I hear you.
Which they do. They do. I get that. And again, this is where I think this is where my personal taste is showing.
Sure.
Right at that point.
Yeah.
And again, I am not saying Beauty and the Beast is a bad film. I am saying this is how I wished it had gone, but this is personal taste.
Sure, totally. Alex, I'm gonna let you have a block if you want it to say anything, and then I'm just gonna start going down my list to start moving us toward closing. We're not quite there yet, but we're We have more to say. There's more to say.
There's so much to say.
Say anything on what on Gaston?
Whatever
on
you have,
that whole
because you haven't said anything in a bit, and I was countering him, and you have a slot. If you want to pass, go ahead.
It's been great listening to all that.
Yeah.
Once again, I feel like the musical helps in this sense. Because not musical,
the Broadway
helps in this sense, because Me is very much it very much characterizes him more as an oaf, but it does a little bit more. He actually like lays out a plan, and it gives you a little bit more insight into his psyche, as far as I can tell, early on, because that's like the 4th song or something in the show, in the Broadway. So, as I said, go listen to the Broadway. But as far as the Neo-Gastonism stuff goes,
yes, which we didn't. I thought that's what we were going. Oh, you don't know about the hot take? The hot take is basically this: the Twitter hot take. Gaston did nothing wrong. He was just trying to get the girl and save her from the beast, and from her father, her crazy father who can't take care of her, and all kinds of other crazy, ridiculous nonsense. Basically, the idea: Gaston did nothing wrong except be an alpha male. That's the hot take.
Yeah.
Soldiers, please be more discerning than this. We'll be right back on Poets at War.
Are you looking for thought-provoking Christian perspectives that bring unity across denominations? Then you'll want to check out Logosophia magazine. As a free online interdenominational publication, Logosophia publishes a variety of creative works like articles, stories, and poems on different theological themes each quarter. Their goal is to have respectful conversations that highlight our shared beliefs outlined in the Apostles', Nicene, and Athanasian creeds, as we clarify our differences. So if you want to dive deeper into your faith while learning from other Christian expressions, subscribe to Logosophia magazine today on their website or listen to their podcasts. We look forward to journeying with you.
I'm Ian Wilson, and I create graphic art using primarily traditional methods, supplementing with digital where it's needed. I use a real pen, a real paper, a real graphite to make my art. I like to feel my art. I've always been this way. I love the feeling of a pen or pencil in my hand, the sound of graphite scratching paper, and I love the sight of a nice black line making its way across the page. So why choose traditional art over digital? Traditional art has an organic, natural quality that seems to be missing from most digital illustrations. The illustrated books and comics that were made in the days before digital have an excellence and staying power that is just as vibrant now as it was decades ago. These are the stories that stay with you. Dr. Seuss, Winnie the Pooh, Where the Wild Things Are. People still read these. I'm currently working on my own graphic novel series, Legend of the Swordbearer, and I've also had the privilege to draw graphics for 2 motion comic series, along with illustrations for a small magazine, Logosophia magazine, and various book covers. Don't let traditional art fade into the dust. Help me keep it alive. You won't regret it. Visit my website at ianthomaswilson.com for more info.
We now return you to the trenches. Let's get this thing on.
I've actually got a little bit of insight into this one because I was there whenever this happened.
You were
as far
in
as I can
provincial
tell.
France animated version? Go ahead.
You do not recite the deep magics to him. He was there when they were written.
Yeah, so as far as I can tell, at least in the like modern conversation, the internet conversation, this got started by a video put out by John Doyle, who used to be a really good YouTuber.
Right.
Called Beauty and the Beast is Unintentional Beast, I think is the or Unintentionally Conservative.
Okay.
Is the title of the video. At this point in time, I was watching I watched all of his videos twice at least. He was just a fantastic conservative YouTuber who presented like really good positive vision for what the conservative movement needed to be. And he hadn't posted in a while, and I saw that this was posted like 30 minutes ago. I'm like, oh, cool, video on Beauty and the Beast. It's great. I started listening to it, and about 5 minutes in, I realized ending Gaston, and I said, Mom, Dad, you gotta hear this. I threw it up on the TV, and we all stared at the screen in horror. As he lays out why Gaston is actually the good guy of Beauty and the Beast. And yeah, the channel has gone down ever since then.
Yeah,
it's very sad. But
yeah,
that's
that's the natural logical progression from the Belle has Stockholm syndrome.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, it is.
Which
right.
That's one of my things on the list. I'm gonna jump into that right quick. Basically, people who claim the Stockholm syndrome thing, which is the other hot take, Belle has Stockholm syndrome. They basically missed the entire second act.
They are victim minded. Belle is the victim. You cannot allow any lenience or look at the oppressor.
Right.
You have to only look at the victim. Because she's the victim and because she's falling in love with him, he must be, or she must have Stockholm syndrome. We are just going to conveniently ignore the fact that Beast literally physically changes by the end of the movie.
These are also the same people who would say that Christians are required to have Stockholm syndrome as they define it because we're told to forgive. That was my other point. Basically, forgiving someone who has actually done you wrong to them equals Stockholm syndrome.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, basically that
was a mistake.
As far as Gaston, very briefly, that kind of thing. I mean, he literally is not just completely full of himself, but he at no point whatsoever has any actual worry about Belle's well-being ever throughout the entire thing, and she ends up getting hurt several times because of him throughout the film.
He is only ever worried about himself, and that is all, in any way, shape, or form. He never shows like for anybody at all.
Yeah, exactly.
Show for his friend, go any care for anybody in the town. He doesn't show any care for the town itself. He only cares about him. That is his primary character trait in the movie.
And whenever he has something bad handed to him, he has to double down and give that to someone else. That's the other thing. Like, he can't suffer alone. He throws LeFou in the mud after he's been thrown in the mud. You know, like, this is so yeah, anyway.
So if to any actual conservatives out there who want to believe this, remember two things. Or conservative Christians out there, remember a couple things. First of all, there are going to be, because I understand what they're trying to say. Gaston is kill the monster, get the girl. That is the stereotypical thing that even canon, who we like, talk about. But remember, I believe it was like, Lord, Lord, did we not cast out demons in your name? And he said, I never knew you.
Yep.
It's not
it's
just
a perversion
the
of
action.
that thing. Yeah.
It's not just the action, it is the intent behind the action that is critical. It's why Jesus says, if you lust after a woman in your heart, you've committed adultery.
And boy, did Gaston do it all out of that.
If you hate a brother in your heart, you have committed murder.
Ooh, we did a lot of that too.
So Gaston is not a hero because he tries to kill the beast and get the girl. He is a villain because in his heart he is narcissistic and sinful and all that. So that is the response to that. Sorry, continue.
Good work. So I'll just start jumping through what I've got. One of the best prologues to any film ever. I'll definitely say probably the best to an animated film, period. The entire sequence, and I know you're going whatever back and forth. I'm saying the multiplane, the Once Upon a Time, the voice that they chose for it, the music behind it. Good gracious, that's some of the most beautiful score Alan Menken's ever written. And that rivals or beats the overture from Little Mermaid, and that's incredible. That's one of the best parts about Little Mermaid is the overture at the beginning. but for real, like the when you compare not only the prologue though, when you put the prologue with Belle, you have introduced both Belle and the Beast without actually introducing the Beast in motion, really, hardly at all. Like, I think there's like 2 shots or something like that, right?
Yeah.
When he's like this in the darkness, right? You've barely mentioned him, and you go from that whole prologue into the song Belle, and you've introduced everybody in like 12 minutes. Like, your 2 main characters, 100%.
Not
It's
even.
gorgeous.
Not even 12 minutes.
Oh, I know. It's so good. And I just wanted to specifically bring that up. I love the beginning of that. I know everyone goes crazy for Circle of Life, but honestly, Circle of Life drags in the middle. It does.
Yeah,
Like
a little bit.
we're just like, look at this beautiful animation, realistic animation of all these animals. Great. All this humanist message in the music. Great. I agree. Circle of Life begins and ends amazingly, and it's a great opening to a movie overall. But good gracious, the combat, the 1-2 punch of the Once Upon a Time with Belle, whew, it's so good. Brenda, did you have anything further on that? Okay.
I like How to Train Your Dragon's opening.
They have a great opening too. They have a DreamWorks-y opening. There's a lot more.
Yeah.
It's a different thing, but yeah, totally.
It's a different thing.
Totally. I love that one though. Go ahead, Alex.
One thing to also note about the prologue is how the music comes back. I heard it. I heard it 2 times. There might have been one that I missed, but it comes back whenever Belle is in the West Wing.
Yep.
And
the Rose. It's really a Rose. The Rose theme.
Yeah, exactly. And then it's really interesting. I was noticing the music, but it was really interesting what they did, because it starts with the bum 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 bum, and then it transfers over to Tale as Old as Time.
Yes.
For like 2 measures, I think.
Yes.
And then whenever the Beast shows up again, it comes back with a like full force bum 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 bum.
Yep.
So
go ahead.
No, go on.
Go.
So that
Brendan.
bum is a reference to one of the oldest songs that is used in every single thing. Dies Irae,
Yep.
It is. It shows up in The Lord of the Rings. It shows up in
shows
up
in Lion King.
Shows up in Lion King. It shows up everywhere.
Shining.
That's
the one
what
you were thinking of.
Yep, that one.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to.
It's really well used.
I'm
in Shining.
gonna have to go into that for sure. But go ahead.
Then the last time that it comes back, correct me if I'm wrong, Brendan, but it comes back in major instead of minor at the end.
I believe so.
That would be correct. That I don't remember, but I think when the last rose petal falls, it might still be in minor,
I think
but it's
is.
It's in a sort of like
tinkly thing,
slow, sad, rather than like haunting. It's like all hope is lost.
It starts off in minor, and then like the first 2 measures are in minor, and then the second 2 measures go up to major.
Yeah,
I think.
Yeah, I think that sounds correct, or that vaguely seems correct to me.
I have considered again and again. I don't have room for one, but the only reason I really consider a hammered dulcimer outside of just Rich Mullins had a hammered dulcimer is to play the prologue. It is unbelievable on hammered dulcimer. The prologue theme. Oh, it is so good. Anyway, moving forward, one of the things that I really like about the film overall, this is just a thematic thing that they do. They go in big and crazy, and we've talked about all these big, intense, dark and light, darkness and light type of themes that they're going for. These really Shakespearean crazy levels of, everything. But they don't neglect the more cartoony tropes of animation. They don't, and they let them rise to the occasion. They don't just let them be just cartoony. They actually they let them fit within the world It's the same thing they're doing with the animation. The examples I was going to mention, there's some excellent slapstick with LeFou, and some of the other comedic characters. Lumiere and Cogsworth have some great slapstick elements with cartoony sound effects and the rest. And then the three blondes in particular, every time I watch them and hear them, the more I like pay attention to them. There was a lot of like Looney Tunes style love, just placed into that element of the film, and it did not have to be there like at all, but they went whole hog. And a lot of what they do with those characters is really a send up to animation's past, while trying to push animation forward with the darker, crazier Shakespearean, sorts of stuff. And so they run the whole gamut, and they don't just try to make something beautiful and dark and intense, but they also say, no, we know this is a cartoon, and we're going to give you some of that beautiful cartoon stuff, and we're going to make it good quality, goofy cartoon slapstick stuff. And I love that they didn't forsake that,
That's what stuck out to me on this watch through, because this is the first time I'd seen it in a while, as I said before. But as you said, cartooniness, it feels very much like a cartoon. The thing that stuck out to me specifically was whenever LeFou gets the horn stuck on his head and his lips pop out of the mouthpiece.
That's a great moment.
It's great. It's cartoon logic.
I love it. I love when Gaston lifts the ladies and then he just throws, chucks them. You know what I mean? And they're like, whoa! They have that little squeal. Oh, it's so funny. Yeah. Oh, there's so many moments like that. The next thing I had was the mob song is metal.
It is so good.
I don't think it gets enough praise for how good it is. But the one thing I don't like is, and this was toward the end of the production process, from what I understand, for Howard Ashman, so he wasn't able to take as much time as he wanted to make the "we don't like what we don't understand, and that it scares us, and this monster is mysterious." At least, not his greatest lyrics. They're really on the nose.
Yeah.
That's one of the very few things that I kind of enjoyed. The very few things from the 2017 remake is they actually rewrote that spot, and they actually they didn't go crazy with the rewrites of the music or anything like that. And there were some that I disagreed with the choices of the rewrites, but there were a couple where I'm like, yeah, no, you actually shored that up a little bit. There's a pun, sure. Anyway, yeah, so the mob song is just awesome. Kill the beast.
It's so good. Whenever I was just watching it, it was me and my grandparents, and I was just standing up going
yep,
just bouncing around to the beat. It was great.
The big one that hits me, though, because I'm the vocal guy, I love the passionate vocal holdout notes kind of thing. Oh, it's time to take some action, boys. It's time to follow me. I love that bit. Really good vocal line. Sung extremely well.
Yeah, I think that. Sorry, this made me lead to the actual attack on the castle and all of the slapstick of the fight sequence, except for Gaston, who was finding the beast, who did not say anything. Don't defend the castle.
Right, no.
He doesn't say anything about it because he's lost all hope.
Right.
Because he let Belle go because he loved her, which is something that, I think that is, my biggest, most angriest thing from Infinity War is that Thanos got the Soul Stone at all.
Okay.
Because he had to sacrifice something that he loved. And so he chucks Gamora in. You don't love Gamora if you're sacrificing her for your cause. I'm sorry, that's not
right. Yeah. Well,
but Beast doesn't.
Right.
He actually follows through, and that shows how far he has come. And it's really interesting because the order in the prologue is not someone loves him and then he loves someone else. It's he loves someone and someone learns to love him.
Yes.
And the first person to say I love you is Beast.
Yes.
And then the second one is Belle. I just love that parallel. Anyway.
Yeah, there's some gorgeous stuff there. No, you're good. Moving on.
Back to the list.
Go ahead.
As a Marvel fan, I must make one obligatory joke, which is that if we wanted to have a much happier ending to Endgame, they should have sent to Vormir, the planet where the Soul Stone is, Thor and a keg of beer instead of Black Widow and Hawkeye.
Nice.
Because that would have been a much easier way to do it, and it would have been much happier.
Just have Valkyrie with them to make sure it goes over, and she's torn about it too.
Exactly.
Anyway, okay, so I'm gonna skip the main one that I have here, and go to the last one. I've talked many times on Poets at War about the transformation scene. Particularly Glenn Keane writing on his exposure sheet, 2 Corinthians 5:17, if any man be in Christ, he is a new creation. The old has passed away, behold, all things become new. He specifically went, he was under the gun to the point where he said, I need more time, and begged Don Hahn, the producer, to do it. And Don Hahn said, this is by far the most important sequence of the film. Take whatever time you need. I'm going to figure it out. And so Glenn Keane went and looked at the Burghers of Calais, which is a group of sculptures. He looked at a lot of sculptures with Renaissance sculptures with heavy angles and whatever you want to call it, like poses, and was really trying to nail down some things and get it all set up in his mind, and it shows in the work.
It does.
It is his life's, I would argue, except for the short film Duet, which is absolutely unbelievable. I don't know if you've both seen that, but if you have, Brendan?
You showed it to me.
I think so.
Okay, yeah.
It's marvelous.
Other than that, which is a different thing altogether, I'd say that Glenn Keane's by far crowning achievement as an animator is the transformation scene in Beauty and the Beast. It is so unbelievable. I know a lot of people go, but it didn't look like him. I agree. That was a hard thing. It was a choice between going for the big, broad Renaissance thing that they were trying to do, or trying to make the character more consistent to what we had seen previously, whether give him a beard or whatever. I get it. I know those criticisms, they're there. But as far as showing 2 Corinthians 5:17 in animation, it's going to be hundreds and hundreds of years before we come close to something like that again, quite frankly. The love and passion that was put into that. Glenn Keane, if you happen upon this, we want you on Poets at War so bad. I don't know how to get to you about that, but good night, man. Christians need to hear you talk about this more than you did in that one clip on YouTube, and they need to be inspired by what you did, because so many people lack the imagination to actually take the Bible thematically and apply it as well as you did back then. So I had one other thing and we can launch into it, but I want to give brief whatever to anything you guys want to say, particularly about transformation scene.
I just love how it was anatomically correct.
Good gracious, it was.
Like I'm sure a bunch of people don't know this, but like animal paws, they are actually like just the toes and this part of the animal, not this. This is that thing that goes up like a chunk of the way. And so when you watch his back paw become his foot, it is anatomically correct.
Yep, it sure is.
Also, hearing that he referenced Renaissance statues, a whole bunch of visual things make more sense now. Just in terms of the decisions made for how perfect the anatomy was and stuff. Anyway.
Right. Alex, did you have anything further on that?
Not really. It's beautiful. The animation is just absolutely perfect, mixed with Menken's amazing score.
Mm-hmm.
Ugh.
Good gracious, the score on that piece.
But,
and Belle's animation during that whole sequence, her look of awe is so unbelievably genuine. That's a hard emotion to get across and not look strange, you know. Then
Belle's animation throughout the entire thing is just...
Sometimes, I'm not going to even lie, sometimes I will listen to the transformation scene even beyond just watching it. Like, the watching is unbelievable, but good gracious, just the sound by itself is unbelievable. The fact that, you know, that was the other thing that Glenn Keane was pulling from a lot, was whether it was the finished version or not. It usually isn't in that process, but like, good gracious, like just the performances from everybody in that. Oh man. Okay. Yeah. The main thing I wanted to get to, the main thrust of this whole thing, I'm just going to read what I said and we can riff. The beast, Gaston, in parentheses, within, is to be tamed by sources God created to tame it, woman, in parentheses, and still be dangerous to those outside of that. Gaston is a good guy, hold on. Gaston is the typical good guy, misses the evil that was in Beast before he was turned. Okay, yeah. So he misses
the people who say Gaston is a good guy.
Right.
Misinterpret that.
So basically what I'm saying is the Enchantress got Beast, but not him, because she's not omniscient, right? So basically we get to see the outworking of two paths with that. That beast rages within Gaston and corrupts what should have been good and decent within. But only a woman can change either of them, and only through providence and not her own will. And Belle is righteous in choosing Beast over Gaston, as God is righteous in choosing us, and for nothing in us. There is nothing in Beast initially at the beginning of the story that is different from Gaston. There isn't, you know, other than he's a beast on the outside and he's not. There really isn't. And I'm saying this is an imperfect, obviously it's an analogy, microcosm of what God does with us, you know, when he chooses us for salvation and changes our heart and causes us to love him. And that's another thing that's so haunting and so smack in your face. And the thing that I have said to Hazel over and over and over again, anytime we see this movie, the key line in the whole movie is within the song Beauty and the Beast. It's always listed as Beauty and the Beast everywhere I see it. Some people refer to it as Tales Old as Time. I get it. It's whatever it is. That song. Bittersweet and strange, finding you can change, learning you were wrong. When you take that and just strip that out for just a second, that is why, even though you can look at something like A Christmas Carol, and I've heard a lot of Christians go down this path with A Christmas Carol, it's moralism. He's not actually really changing. He doesn't have a changed heart based on the gospel. I'm like, that's not the point. The point of that story is that someone that bent, that messed up, can change.
Yeah.
At all. That there is a power in the world that can change us. Period.
I think that conservatives fall into the trap of needing to have the mechanics of change be exact and true for every one of their stories.
Yep.
When that isn't a necessity even by Christ's own standard.
Right. Yep. We've been learning about. Hold on one sec, Alex. Otherwise, I'm going to forget this. We've been preaching through Joshua in my church. My pastor's been preaching through Joshua, and he just got through the Gibeonites. The Gibeonites fear the Lord imperfectly and trick the Israelites into making a covenant with them. Of course, the whole nation individually wasn't saved. That's not the point. But some of them were saved because they feared God enough to lie.
Yeah.
Good gracious.
Yeah, they did.
Good gracious.
And,
go ahead, Alex.
Yeah. You're absolutely right. And I think a lot of people don't have that category.
Right.
That category of... Go.
No, I was going to say these are the same people who say that fiction is a waste of time. They're the same people who say that the parables were true tales, despite there being zero evidence for it. Because to them, all like if any piece is not factual, it is a lie.
Right.
But there's a difference between fact and truth. Sorry, continue.
Yeah.
They don't have a
pretty
category.
Sure it's N.D. Wilson.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure it's N.D. Wilson. It's either N.D. Wilson or Jason Farley, who talks about Christians who demand that the stories that they write, or the stories, the Christian stories that they consume, be explicitly Christian. These are the people who want God's not dead.
Right.
1,000 God's not deads. Kill me now. But the reason that they want that is because, you know, we have the truth, and so we should try to save people through our art. Fair enough, ish. But I'm pretty sure it's N.D. Wilson's rebuttal to that is God's art doesn't save.
Right.
Natural revelation doesn't save.
Right.
Only special revelation saves. So there has to be a place for natural revelation as far as human art goes as well. You have to have a place for just beauty for the sake of glorifying God that is not necessarily trying to push someone explicitly towards salvation.
Right.
I'm not a big rap music person at all, but the NF rap artist right now, his lyrics are very obviously Christian if you're a Christian.
Who is it? You cut out when you were saying it.
NF.
NF, okay, yeah.
NF. His lyrics are very obviously Christian if you're a Christian. There are biblical allusions all over the place.
Yep.
He doesn't give you a decoder ring.
Right.
It's very obviously there, but he doesn't give you a decoder ring.
Right.
To figure it out. It's not Christian rap. It's rap that is clean. First of all, good. Good. First of all, clean. Second of all, and if you look clean.
No, good. He's
good.
He's
good.
He's not a rap guy. He would probably agree with Pastor Joe, but that's a whole other thing.
I'm not either. The poetry is good.
Right.
Continuing.
That's what I'm referring to. But that's the thing that I think you were hitting on, is that we don't have a category for that.
Right.
Something that is true beyond factual.
Right.
Because we try to push. We don't want anybody to misunderstand what we're saying.
Okay, so when I hear, okay, let me say this, the beauty truth thing, you know, truth, beauty, goodness, that crowd of people, the people who would say that, you know, for example, Andrew Peterson regularly says of the Wingfeather Saga, the stories are true. That's just a kind of a catchphrase that he says about the stories. And what he means by that is clear, and he's said it a million places, but people who claim that there's no category for that kind of a fictional story being true. Okay. Jesus said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. All right. No man comes to the Father but by me. Okay. I think there is a conflation there specifically between I am the truth and no one comes to the Father but by me. Those are two separate clauses in the sentences. And so when someone says that something is true beyond factual, like you were saying, what is actually being said is that this pleases Jesus.
Yes.
You are making a claim that this pleases Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
And I have changed my vocabulary around certain people for that purpose, with essentially saying this would please Jesus. And I think that's one thing that we can this thought process as artists speaking to people who are not artists. I think for some people, as a witness to them, to this truth beyond factual, would be to look for ways to change our vocabulary up to better represent what we're trying to say to people who cannot think and connect that far from one point to another. That's just a kindness, right? So just putting it out there, because this is something that I think about a lot, because I have artist friends and I have people who misunderstand me, and I want to represent myself and them better, so. Anyway, yeah. I think that's a good point to wrap things. If you guys have nothing else, last call.
Go listen to the Broadway.
This is opening a can of worms, but
that's okay.
Be aware of what statements you are promoting in reaction to things and lies that those you oppose may say. We brought this up last time with The Little Mermaid and Hans Christian Andersen and whether or not he was gay.
Right.
That being a lie pushed by others, and so the natural reaction is, well, that if that's true, then we can't have anything to do with this.
Right.
Be aware. That is the same lie, I think, that is fueling, not the Hans Christian Andersen one, but that is the same reason why people might be pushing back against any story.
Right.
That is true, even if it's not factual.
Right. That goes double for Howard Ashman. We didn't specifically mention his homosexuality. We mentioned his AIDS. There are accounts from people who know him that he was definitely spiritually battling toward the end of his life, as most people, I'm sure, who died of AIDS should. I have the slightest glimmer of hope that he was an 11 o'clock hour conversion, especially because I know that he knew what the gospel was. He had basically talked about that in some of his some of the documentaries that he was involved in and some of the other sorts of things, and so he was very clearly aware of it. Yeah. I'm praying that that's a possibility. So that's a good place to end. Everybody,
yeah.
This is a real battle, and there's cartoony craziness, slapstick, and crazy Shakespearean everything, transformation scenes telling us with hope that a man can change. Behold, a new creation. Wow, a new creation. That's what the Bible says. That's what Paul says, right? And so keep that all in mind as we sit there in the trenches. Okay? We're going to see you next time in the trenches. Be your family's bard. Do not turn to the right or to the left, and the Lord will be with you wherever you go. We'll see you next time in these trenches on Poets at War.
For more conversations like this with our three intrepid leaders, go to joshuadavidling.com and check out more of Poets at War.
God of songs said